Hey, what's up? Hope everyone's doing all right. So this is week 42, and it's the writing or the readings is Luke 8 through Luke 24. And so remember, so this if you read the Bible, remember if you read the Bible and you do about 14 pages per week, or I've separated it, and then you get to the Bible in 50 weeks. And so this is the week 42, and so this is pretty much most of Luke, not all of Luke, because we did Luke through 7 last week. And then, so what we're doing ever since last week is that we're just taking all the different parables, not all the different parables, but the parables that I think are the most like influential, at least to me in my life. And so maybe every year you can list like different parables that you can go over. And so this year we're just doing the parables that I have listed. And so Monday through Friday I have just 5 different parables that I've kind of just reflected on each day, and something that I think about, and then that's the way that God can talk to me and in my life for me to understand these things. And so for Monday, I have the parable that I have is, money given to each man according to his ability. So you have like the person that had, he's given 1 denarii or 1 pound, 5 denarii, and 10 denarii. And then the person with 10 denarii, the guy went away. He gave each of his servants some money. One he gave one he gave five, one he gave 10, each according to their ability. The guy that he gave 10, he comes back and he's like, hey, when he comes back, instead of like, hey, the money that you gave me, I was able to make 10 more. He's like, good job, well and faithful servant. You've been done well with a little. Here's the law. I'll give you in charge of 10 cities. Same thing with the 5. He says the same thing, and he's like, I got 5. With my 5, I was able to give 5 more. Here's 10. He's like, good job, servant, good and faithful servant. You've been responsible for a little bit. Here, responsible for a lot. I gave him 5 cities. And the guy that had 1, he brought him 1. He's like, I knew that you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and picking up what you had not strawed, or something like that. And he's like, so I went and just hid your money in the sand, and here's your money that you got back, because I guess he didn't want to lose it. And so there's a thing that's interesting, because he says, like, I know you're an austere man, picking up where you didn't, or reaping where you did not sow. And so I wonder what this means. Is this just like, I don't really understand that part of it. But the idea is that he was afraid of him for whatever reason, and he didn't want to lose it, so he just didn't like spend the money correctly. And I think that's kind of the idea of it. So this is the wrong thing to do. So a lot of times I think in my life, like, I don't want to be the person that God gives a gift to, and is afraid of God, and afraid of the bad things that could happen. And a lot of it, I think sometimes too, is like, you don't want to like mess up, and you don't want to go to hell. You don't want to make the wrong choices, so you end up making like no choices or not taking any risks. And I think that sometimes you want to take risks and not be a person that God gives a gift to and just doesn't do anything with it. So I was thinking about this too, and I was like, okay, so does that mean that there's some people that are just have better abilities, and that are supposed to be rulers, and so that they can become like the greatest in heaven because they have like the ability to gain. They've been given a lot, so they have the ability to gain more. And I think that you have like many abilities, right? Like some people are good rulers, some people are really good at faith. Everyone has different gifts, and so you might be given a certain amount of ability in a certain department or a certain gift, and then you have the ability to bring forth money, or bring forth fruit, or bring forth a return on the money that you've given, on the gift that you've given. But there's lots of different gifts, and so one person can have the gift of being a leader, the other person can have a gift of faith, you can have like the gift of being able to understand and healing, or just like these different gifts and different abilities that you have. And you've been given like a different level of ability in these things, but some people have more. Some people might have a higher ability in like leading, and somebody might have a higher ability and healing, and understanding, or prophesizing. And so you have these different amount of money that you've given, different level of ability, but you have, you can take all these different abilities that you have, and so you have like the chance to become the greatest in heaven through many different abilities and different areas of investment that God's given into. He's invested in different people, different amounts, and so it's not like, okay, well, I'm a king, so therefore in heaven I could be the greatest too, because I have this ability to return on God's investment. But you can be, just a regular citizen, but have the great ability of compassion or healing or prophesizing, and so you have the ability to have a return. as much as, a king would, or maybe even more in these departments, or a king like, well, am I always going to be less of this prophet because this man's a prophet and I'm just a king, or this man's a prophet and I'm not. So, but you have different abilities and different amounts of investment that has God given into you, and you have the ability to have a return on, to take the investment that God's given you and give him a return on it, and not just one department, many departments. And how God, adds us up to who's the greatest in heaven, I don't, obviously I don't know that, but don't think that just one department is going to determine if you're the greatest or not in heaven. Okay, so Tuesday I have the man who's hurt on the side of the road, and so that's that's the one where it's like, he's like, do love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And then the guy's like, okay, well, who's my neighbor? And he said, those are three different people. There's a priest, a Levite, and the Samaritan. The priest went, so somebody came, so there was a guy and he got robbed, and the robbers left him, half dead on the side of the road. And then the priest came by, walked on the other side, and then the Levite came by, walked on the other side of the road to avoid him, and then the Samaritan came by and put him on his animal and brought him to the inn and took care of him, and told the innkeeper, gave the innkeeper money and told him to take care of him till he comes back, and if he uses more, then he'll pay him what's right. So who was the person that was neighborly? And so this gives you an idea of what God means by how you treat your neighbor. And just because there's like a person of authority doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best person. It could be a person that's less of authority to do the right thing, and that's how you act neighborly to somebody. I always like this one. I think that's people help me this way. Sometimes I think that those that are supposed to help me, you would think would help me, haven't, and those that you didn't think would help me have helped me a lot. And I just feel like that's like the truth. And so I think like the religious authority has turned their back on me a lot of times, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I feel. And maybe one day I'll feel differently. And I feel like academia, or like the people that are in charge, have turned their back on me. But I think that those that you would think that were kind of like the outcasts of society haven't turned their back on me. And now I feel like those that are in charge of the land or help me. And I still think that religious authority turns their back on me. And I think that people that did help me in the past, like the Samaritans, I think that they're like, would you consider like sinners and stuff, or just they probably turn their back on me the most. I don't get along with them the most right now. I feel like I get along with the people that help me the most are the ones that are in charge of the land. And like they save me from both the sinner and the religious authority right now. I feel like it's kind of where I'm at. And there was a time I think that the sinners are like the people that are like the non-believers and stuff are the ones that help me the most, but I don't feel like that anymore so much. I don't think the religious authorities ever really helped me here for whatever reason. But I could be completely wrong, but that's just where I'm feeling right now. So yeah, that's just where I'm at. Okay, and then so Wednesday I have the wheat and tares, and so like you have like this God separates the goats from the sheep, and the wheats and the tares. He uses the analogy for the wheat and the tares. I'm pretty sure it's the one where he's like, okay, the people are in the field, or there's like the field, and then the guy plants wheat, and then his enemy comes and plants tares in the fields, and then the servants come to him. He's like, oh, you just planted wheat. Where all these tares come from? He's like, well, the enemy did this. And like, okay, should we, bring up all the tares? He's like, no, because if you bring up the tares right now, then you'll get some of the wheat as also. He says, when the harvest comes, you will get both the wheats and the tares, and then the wheats will keep in the barn, and the tares will throw into the fire to be burned. And so I think that's what we're having right now, right? Like you have people that are here that are good, and people that are bad, and they're mixed together. And I guess if you take the people that are bad, then you kind of take the people that are good too, because that's like their family sometimes, and it's just part of the society, and it just people. The thing is too is people are like, oh, okay, well, this could just happen. But the thing is, like, if things happen outside of what you're used to, like your normal reality, it just throws you way off. It terrifies you. You can't really function. You can't eat, and not being able to eat when your stomach hurting, it just messes you up really bad. And it's not like it's a very painful experience. And so you can't just have like this sudden change of reality and just like, oh, okay, well, just adapt to it. No, it's not really how that works. You have like this change of your reality, and it throws you way off, and it terrifies you. And I think this is so that people don't go off and just like go off on these weird, just sideways things that kind of stick to their life and what they're supposed to be doing. Otherwise, you just have people just randomly go off to different things, and there would be no, structure, and everything would just be chaotic. And so this is how humans are. And but so what the problem is that just humans can't handle like huge dramatic change in the way the reality is. You can change, you can handle change, like move somewhere else, but if the basic reality is the same, the same belief that you have, there's people, and and there's not any other things besides humans around you, and you are like just a regular human, and then you can handle that. But if you change, you're like, okay, well, no, you're not really. Things aren't a lot different than you think. People can read your mind everywhere you go. And there's sentient beings in here that can list that your thoughts, you're different, and you can hear your thoughts, and like that throws people way off. Like, okay, it's funny at first, but then eventually, it changes the way that you think and the way that you have reality. Or if you understand that there's angels and demons all around you all the time, and spirits all around you, like at first, like, but if you actually really understand what that means, then it's kind of throws you off a little bit. And something like all of a sudden everyone around you just dies and just like disappears, or people die all around you, it throws you way off because you have this reality where people don't necessarily just drop like flies. And so if this does happen, then it terrifies you, I imagine. So you can't have these things that happen in the reality. You think that God can do it, but he could do whatever he wants, but you're also a sentient being, and you have a different way of living, and you have a different way of creating. And so if he changed these things that you were able to handle them, then that would change who you are. And then that would kind of get rid of free choice, because he's changing exactly who you are in order for this to be able to handle it. And so that would change your character, and so that kind of impedes on free will and free choice in some regards. And so I don't think God would do that in a lot of ways. Maybe not, but it's just like one reason why he maybe holds back. And a lot of things that people want God to do, or why doesn't he do it? And so Thursday, I have 99 sheep, one gone astray, and we know that one is really popular, and a lot of people like that one. It's like, better, the heavens rejoice more in heaven for one sinner that turns back than 99 sinners who don't need to turn back. And I guess obviously, because if the person needs to turn back, then that's great. But the 99 people who don't need to turn back, well, they don't need to turn back, so they would rejoice. But the sinner that's being saved, I mean, that's a soul that's being saved, doesn't go to hell. That's a really big deal. So that's the most important than 99 that are just doing their thing normally. And so the one that is saved and comes back is obviously like a really big deal and a really important thing in God's eyes. And then Friday, I have entered through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many are those that enter by it. But how narrow and is the path to life, and few are those that find it. How small is the gate, and how narrow is the path that leads to life. Few are those that find it. And many are called, few are chosen. And so I guess you enter through the narrow gate, because like there's like lots of different ways to be bad, right? There's lots of different theologies out there. There's lots of different ways, like to live your own truth and live your own life. You have these ideas that people have, like live your own truth, or do what makes you happy. Like there's lots of different ways that lead to destruction, but the only way to lead to life is through God and through truth, which is Christ. And so this is the only path, is the Christian path, and to follow the Bible. And I personally think that the King James Version is like the way that you get there, unless you don't, the only way to life is through truth, which is Christ, through Christ, and then to the Father. So that's the only way to lead to life. And that's it. It's the only way. And now what that is for each individual is different. And so for me, I feel like where I'm at in my life right now, they have the option to have the King James Version of the Bible. I think that's the only truth. That's the only path for me that I can go down. So everyone's path is differently, and I think that the relationship with Christ, relationship with God, allows them to go down that path of life, and that's each individual's path. But that's the only path, and what that is looks different for everybody. Everybody's path is different, but it's still the same path. It's just Christ and God. That's it. You have God, and you have the mediator between man and God, and that's Christ Jesus, and that's the only path forward. And what that path is, like I said, is different for everybody else, or everybody, and it's a unique path. Like each person's unique, so they have a unique path. And so some might be similar, and some have similarities, but it's just a unique path. So so that's Luke 8, I think. Luke 8 to Luke 24. And so I hope everyone's doing okay, and God bless, and happy truth seeking.